Hello everyone. I thought I'd do a video on some of my ground covers. I know I'm always looking for great ones that will work. So I thought I would show you some of mine and how they're doing for me. Here I have two ground covers that are working out great. This is in front of my bunny's barn, and I needed something for the stone path to go between the path, and also just to dress it up a bit. It needs a little paint job, but I just haven't gotten to that yet. But this has really been successful here. It looks gorgeous, and you can see I've planted beside it some impatiens and some begonias. I think they're double play begonias. Not sure. I think double play pink maybe. So in front on the sides, I have creeping thyme. So that is an herb. You can actually eat it. And that is working out really great. I have it growing up in an old tree and on the ground. There's nowhere that it doesn't seem to do well. And then this blooming is blue star creeper. And that actually filled in a month's time. It goes even between the smallest crevices. Now you can see, well, yeah, a little bit has gotten out onto the lawn. So this is kind of the stuff I wanted to show you. By their nature, ground covers are all potentially invasive. And the clue is they're called ground covers. So it's meant, that's what they do. They cover the ground. So always remember that. I see people putting that this or that is too invasive. I think if you're going to remark on one being an invasive, please put your zone and your, where you're at, your region, because it's very helpful to know what works in what areas. So I'm imagining that this and you can see it has really a dense matting habit, and then sometimes it grows a little higher. It has a beautiful bluish white flower on it, and it just fills in great and doesn't really go over the rocks too aggressively that it's not easy to maintain. So this has been here about a year, and like I said, it is coming over the rocks, so you will have to take a spade if you don't want it in your lawn. You will recognize this one. This is Creeping Jenny, and she is definitely a love-hate relationship. She likes moist soil, and I don't think Creeping Jenny is very tolerant of dry conditions. I love that the glowing yellow color, and the more light the Creeping Jenny gets, the more yellow. But even under this maple tree, which shades it most of the day, it's still a really beautiful yellow to chartreuse green color. This is the one I'm probably in my yard the most worried about. Because she does seem very happy here. So what I usually do to control is I set some rocks. Like I'll do a line of rocks, and you'll see under here I have a line of rocks, and that is where she's not allowed to go beyond. So this is her section, and she's allowed spread around. I just don't know very much about how she gets along with other plants. That's my main thing with ground covers. I like to know how do they intermix with other plants. Do they strangle them? Do they grow on top of them? It does appear that Creeping Jenny is fine around most plants, and doesn't take them over. That she kind of makes such a mat to the ground that it seems like the other plants aren't cut off by it. Here's another one obviously most people will recognize, and this is English ivy. Very aggressive. This is one of those, the first year it sleeps, the second year it creeps, and the third year it leaps. So you have to really understand where you can put it, where not to put it, and the final result of what you're going to get. Now, what we do with the English ivy is we no longer put it in beds. This is kind of a perfect situation for English ivy. If you want it as an accent, it's on stone. It's easy to cut back. I just will grab this as it gets too long and it starts to leave its parameters, and I'll just cut it, throw it in the compost bin. And then also, English ivy is fine on trees as long as you don't allow it to get into the canopy where it can kind of choke off the tree. So what we do is we get up on a ladder and we cut it. And I will show you what it looks like after you cut it. We've cut it off our front tree completely because it was taking over our creeping phlox. This is what it will look like after you cut it off a year later. And then eventually that's just going to shrivel away. The tree is just going to push it out. So this is our big oak in the front. Well, it's big for New Jersey. New Jersey does not have big trees. Our sandy soil does not promote really big tree growth. So anyway, this brings us to another ground cover. And this is creeping phlox, or moss phlox. Excuse the traffic. Yes, so moss phlox. This, I know a lot of people there's mixed feelings about it because it blooms for a period of time in the spring and then it just sits and it's green. But I love it. It's awesome for erosion control. It's low maintenance. It really requires nothing of me except maybe twice a year I have to get in there and the grass seeds will get in there and you'll just see little spiky grass seeds poking up through, but there's no other weed that seems to grow with it. Irish and I keep wanting to say Spanish moss, but it's Irish and Scotch moss. This is Scotch moss back here. I believe Scotch is the lighter version. They're the same, it just denotes the color. Irish is really dark green and Scotch moss is the lighter chartreusey green. As you can see, this is part of what the problem is with the clovers and the things getting, and you see there's a lot of weed in it. I have seen people, this is one of my favorite ground covers if it's constantly tended. This is a high maintenance ground cover. I just can't keep up with it. You have to get in there constantly because it does not grow dense enough to suppress weeds. So everything grows amongst it. So if you're tolerant of that, it is a beautiful ground cover. If you have an area that you want ground cover in that blooms and has great foliage texture, then you can't really beat Lamian, dead nettle. This gets beautiful purple flowers. I think this might be purple dragon. It is a thug, and if it's happy, it's very happy. So which I was aware of when I put it in. I also do find it's not that hard to pull out. So most of it is throwing out runners like a strawberry. So you just cut it or yank it out. It's not hard. Here's another herb like creeping thyme that makes a wonderful ground cover. And that is golden or yellow oregano. Like all oreganos, I believe they are part of the mint family. And it will spread. But there are all types. There's green types, there's that you can put in, but the golden is, I think, a really good replacement for creeping jenny. If you don't like the look of creeping jenny, but you like the color of creeping jenny. But warning, it's a thug. It will spread everywhere. Alpine Violet with its green and burgundy leaves and purple flowers in the spring is a really nice choice. I've had it in my garden for probably about 15 years and have never had any problems with it. I lifted this up and put it in a pot, but I'll show you it in the landscape. Been in this space for about 15 years. This was the original plant, and it's growing amongst my clematis vine, which is growing on a gate. And under a hardy hibiscus and next to Aubrieta. Sedums, they make amazing ground covers. The one thing though I will tell you about sedums is you have to prepare to control them. Because of their nature and their ability to grow anywhere, meaning you can pluck that off, stick it in the ground, it will grow anywhere. You don't need to pot it, you don't need to harden it off, you just stick it in the ground, it will grow. Contrary to what everybody says about sedums and succulents, I find they grow best if you give them a lot of water. So I'm not exactly sure why here. I don't know if it's because we have sandy soil, but these get watered every single day by the sprinklers, overhead watering. And you can see they are extremely happy. You can't step on it, but the thing is if you do step on it and damage it, those pieces just regrow. So I guess you could really put it in, obviously it's in this path. This path gets used and it doesn't seem to mind at all. It will get tall at times, and particularly if it's going to bloom, but you either pinch it back or just take shears, the big lopper shears, and just take it down as low as you want it to grow, and it doesn't harm it at all. You can grab it if you don't want it to bloom, and it's pretty simple. And then keep it as tidy and as tight to the ground as you would like it. So if you have a problem area, sedums are excellent choices. Just remember, take the pieces and put them in the bin where they cannot grow because they will get everywhere. But it's the great thing about ground covers, and it's the bad thing about ground covers. So it's because they are so hardy and wonders of nature that they can become invasive. And it's also really good to look up what is invasive in your state, in your county, and find out before you put something in. You might recognize this. This is Paccasandra. It's evergreen, grows probably about 10 to 12 inches tall, so it's not great for walkable areas. It's an awesome woodland garden plant, and I would say that for as aggressive as this plant is, it's really easy to control with a weed whacker or any kind of edger. You can just take that weed whacker right along wherever you don't want it and knock it back, and it kind of just sits there. This is Bellflower, birch hybrid Bellflower, and it's going out of bloom, but it gets these really dainty, pretty purple flowers on it. Its habit, this was one can, is you put it in and you can see it splats out, so it quickly spreads. So you can see that this is what actually it'll look like when it stands up. But that's kind of how it spreads. Bellflower, it just kind of lays down and looks like it might be dying or lacking water, but that's actually how I find it spreads. Here's another sedum. It's commonly used to replace Proven Winner's lemon coral sedum. This is Angelina, and it does better in the colder climates. Looks very similar. It is slow to come back, so most of the time when I have this in my beds, I end up digging it up because it takes so long to come back that I don't even know it's there because it goes positively completely dormant, so you don't see it. But that does make a nice ground cover, and it will spread about, as you see in here. And that's one of the plants we have in our butterfly bath area. This is lemon coral sedum. And this is not hardy in our area. I've occasionally gotten it to come back in 6B, zone 6B, but for the most part, it dies off, and it is annual here. So that Angelina is a good substitute. Ajuga. This is a ground cover people either love or hate. I absolutely love it. It's just going out of flower now, but once it's out of flower, it revives back from the energy of producing flowers. It gets beautiful burgundy, flat leaves. It travels on runners like strawberry plants. So it's easy either to pinch back, cut, you can mow over it and mow it. I've weed whacked it. You'll see in my bulb video, I just weed whacked right over it. It comes right back. I don't have a problem. It's easy to pull, it's easy to lift. It plants anywhere, like a strawberry plant. You just pick it up, put it anywhere, it grows just like sedums. It stays flat, it does not interfere with other plants, choking them out. It doesn't do any of that. It will get in your grass, so you will have to lift it if it jumps. So there have been a couple incidences where it's gotten in the grass that I've had to lift it. Yeah, so feel free to share your thoughts on what ground covers work for you. I think it's very helpful. If you have a lot of rockery and pathways like I do, or just don't want to have to mulch every year, ground covers make a wonderful mulch. It is naturally how a plant grows out in the wild with understory plants. So it helps keep the soil moist. So if you can find ground covers that work together with your plants, and that can take trial and error. What works in my garden might not work in your garden. So make sure you test them out in small areas and see. And if it starts to spread more than you'd like, take it out immediately. Don't let it languish there and become a problem. I've been very successful with ground covers because I stay on top of them, and particularly when I first plant them, until I know their behavior in my garden. So I hope this was helpful. That's the one thing, the money that I spend on mulch each year, it gets very expensive. So these ground covers help me to not have to mulch quite as much. So it's really a win-win. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.